Stop taking bullshit from people who are subpar to you.
I like that. Let it go deep into the subconscious as we're rolling and recording.
Set your boundaries and do not let anybody fuck with you. And if they do, let them know who they fucked with. You do not need to be the bigger person. Let your petty fully come out. There you go.
Listen to that while sleeping at night.
No, that's what we're going to do,
You're
right?
gonna have a bunch of petty motherfuckers walking around this earth.
You're going to be like that soon if you keep drinking that fake coffee.
It's not coffee, it's mud water. So it actually reduces inflammation, which coffee is highly inflammatory. It helps with brain power. It actually helps your brain rather than trick your brain into thinking that you're not tired. That's really what caffeine does. It actually like tricks the brain or suppresses some kind of tired thing in your brain and gives you the illusion that you actually have more energy.
Oh, I think my Adderall does that, but thank you.
Coffee, Adderall, same thing.
I think we'll be switching Zen and Fire if you continue to drink your mud water while I'm living my best life with my coffee here. So,
Hey, well, may the best mug win.
exactly. All right. I am Shannon Ferris, Fire, and I am an entrepreneur, and I am going to turn it over to my co-host.
And I am Cynthia Day. I am the Zen of the two of us. And I am also an entrepreneur. I multi-entrepreneur. And so I don't know what else to say.
And together, the two of us have raised and earned over millions of dollars through our businesses. And during our podcast, we're here to tell you the challenges, the highs, the lows, what's worked for us, what hasn't worked for us, and we're going to get into it.
Looking like a baddie, I show up and make them stop. Wanna know my name so badly, cause I run this whole block. Flip my hair, move my head, show the world I'm royalty. Oh yeah, move it, groove it. They wanna know just how I do it.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Today, this is our first podcast of 2024. With that, we are talking today about our purpose, being aligned. How do we set our outcomes? How do we stay focused on what's important to us instead of what I call squirrel moments or shiny objects, letting the noise in the day-to-day life divert us from what is our purpose and our outcomes that we want to drive. And we're going to talk about what's worked for us, what hasn't worked for us. Cynthia we're very much alike, but we also are very different in how we do things. And we're going to talk about what's worked, what hasn't in our journeys, because it hasn't always been great, right?
And that's what builds the character and who we are.
I know, the good and the bad. So, Cynthia, I know that you've been really spending a lot of time on what is your working on yourself, what is your purpose, your higher calling. So now walk me through what that's been like for you.
It's a really great question. And it's also a loaded one, right? It's like, gosh, where do you begin?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I started waking up, right? Probably in my younger 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by this is just realizing that there's so much more to reality than just being, than just what you're touching, feeling, experiencing in the moment around you. And at that point, I believe that's when I truly found God, like really and truly began to give God a presence in my life. And you want to talk about squirrel moments. Okay. I then proceeded to spend the next 20 years squirreling out,
Mhm.
right? Like constantly trying to improve myself, constantly growing beyond the limiting beliefs that I realized I had accrued, right, during childhood. And, weeding out the garden, so to speak, and really um, replacing those weeds, right, with flowers, beautiful beliefs and beautiful, just a beautiful sense of identity that really serves me, right? And each year, I think that I just try to always tweak things. But there's a difference when you tweak, right? Not when you twerk, but when you tweak.
Can't do
So
that.
there is the difference.
Mhm.
So I think that it comes from a source of ego, and it also comes from the place of your true soul.
Mhm.
And, within the last 20 something years, I have absolutely and most definitely, um, flip flopped, right? Like through it and taking these journeys and these dances between the soul and the ego.
Mhm.
Well, this is finally the year. And I think, God put me through so like very pivotal experiences that crushed my heart, broke my heart for the first time. But also, like, it was probably the most monumental growth of my life.
So, are you saying, like, a lot of things really came into clarity this year? So,
Oh,
there was
a
a lot of churn
thousand
for 20
percent.
years, and now it kinda like the light bulb, tink, tink, the light bulb came on.
Boom. And it was like I had to go through these things to get more in alignment with my soul.
Okay.
Okay. So you're talking about alignment. Those experiences absolutely brought me to my soul. And so now it's like the outcomes, the goals, the perspective in life that I have no longer comes from the source of the ego. I mean, as much as possible, right? I mean, are we human or, are we perfect? I mean, So when I'm more into and in alignment with my soul, I am asking God literally, and not in this like religious sense. It's a very spiritual and soulful relationship. But I'm really asking, can you make my passions and can you make my motivations, right, in alignment with, the purpose that you have for my life, right? And allow me to serve humanity in the way that only I can do because you gifted me to do so.
Mhm.
Right. And so this year is absolutely that year where that sole purpose and all the outcomes are actually aligned with soul purpose, and no more squirrel moments, no more dead ends, no more cul-de-sacs, no more wrong turns, and no more backtracking for miles and years. You know?
So, you brought up some terms that I want to highlight for our listeners and our viewers because they may not know what it is. You brought up limiting beliefs. So, quickly tell our viewers what a limiting belief is.
So I would say, in my own definition and in my own experiences,
Mhm.
right? A limiting belief is something that you believe, something that you experienced along life
Mhm.
that allows you to believe something that really shields you from your ultimate true power and potential.
So, for me, it would be, hashtag mommy issues, thinking that I, need to prove myself through pleasing other people and killing myself and doing all those. Like, it's more of like, hey, I'm not good enough, but I'm not good enough because of this or this or this. Or
Absolutely.
a good one, for my husband would be he was raised, and I think we were too, raised in our parents were like, hey, you go, you do your 9 to 5, you stay with the same company, you give them loyalty, you do whatever it is, and that will prosper. And now that may be a limiting belief of I have to go and I have to have a 9 to 5 and I can't go and scale out and do these types of things. Is that what you're talking about when you say limiting belief? Are those good examples?
Um, I would absolutely. I mean, is there any like real wrong way to define it? I would say, in my experience, right, to solidify what you're saying, it would be the belief of I'm not good enough
Mhm.
would be very, very limiting. And
Yeah.
then the hold on just one second, give me a second. Then the coping mechanism,
Mhm.
right, of being a people pleaser would stem from that limiting belief.
Correct. Yeah. So I always say you need to treat the disease, not the symptom, right?
Boom,
Go right
baby.
for it. So that's right. So now you have found your purpose. The stars have aligned. You feel this,
Oh,
your hair, it's like a Taylor Swift video, right? Like, Karma is my boyfriend. So we'll get some trademarks for that. Sorry about that. Sorry, Tay.
we love you, Tay Tay.
I do. I'm gonna wear my sweatshirt next time. It says, "The trash always takes itself out every single time." It's one of my favorites.
Every single time.
Yeah,
I almost rented
I
her
did.
show on Amazon, right?
I 100% did. And then I told everybody I was wrapping presents, and I went and got a salad and a glass of like a holiday pour of
Yeah.
wine. And I locked the door and I was like, sorry, wrapping presents. Having my own concert. Like I was her backup dancer.
Oh my gosh. If anyone needs suggestions on how to have mommy time, self care time, we'll just ask Shannon.
We will. I'll tell you how to make it. Anyways, yeah. We had honesty's overrated. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Anyways, right. Hold on. What are they? I'll have to come back to it, but I forgot the term where it's typically people. It's not malicious compliance. It's where typically men do it, but they act stupid just so they don't have to do things. I'll bring it up here in a minute. But so I want
Intentional ignorance? I don't know.
it's something like that. Um, so now that you have alignment, you've spent a lot of time. You spent 20 years, right? So there's just those to show. Not everybody wakes up and they're like, "Oh, I know my purpose," right? So how are you staying on track? We are moms. We're we have multiple things going. So we have to be a mom, we have to be a house manager, we have to do all of these things. And very easily we can say, oh, well, I spent my whole day and nothing really gets done. So how do you stay focused to your purpose now that you know what that is? And so hold on, let me back up just a little bit. Do you want to share with us what's your purpose? And you said,
Okay.
what's your elevator pitch purpose? Come
That
on.
elevator pitch. All right. So I don't know that I necessarily have an elevator pitch because I'm growing out of not good enough into this is what I am bred for, right? But
Okay.
it would absolutely be to lead by example, right? Show the world how to embrace your self-worth and your self-love. How do you develop and build, you know, love for yourself just like you would your child or just like you would your spouse and the people that you love and care about the most? How can you develop that same relationship with yourself? How can you treat yourself with that much adoration and respect and protection that you would your child or
Oh,
your
I
spouse,
Mm.
right? And then really embrace that. So by living that in life, by literally walking it, um, that is my purpose in life. Now, where this takes me, on the world stage, only God will continue to unwrap that, right? The more that I go, but really, how do we stick to that? Because so many times, and this is where you're alluding to, right? Like
Yeah,
things
that was
get
my next
convoluted, right? Like you're so many hats, right? As a woman, as an entrepreneur, as a mom, right? As a freaking homeowner, for crying out loud, and whatever, else that you find yourself responsible for.
Mhm.
How do you stay on track? Well, for me, so I am a part of a business mastermind.
Mhm.
And every morning at 8:15, Monday through Friday, I get on with my accountability partner. And we get on specifically to um, put ourselves in the mindset and the focus of, what we're grateful for, what our victories are, what our challenges and what our intentions, and specifically what questions that we have for the universe,
Okay.
right? And I've just watched myself and my accountability partner. I have watched us grow from 3 weeks ago when we first started,
Mhm.
right, until now. And what I realize is very important, and especially I realized this today, was your ability to reflect and see how you're showing up in the world, and see who's showing up around you as a result of who you are being,
Mhm.
is absolutely crucial.
It's
Clarity next to God, or maybe clarity is God, right? But that is your biggest and your best and your highest asset.
Mhm.
How well do you see yourself, right? You can't accomplish shit in life without clarity, right? Like, you
Well,
know,
yeah, and a lot of people don't have the opportunity to get clarity, or they don't
oh, I don't
nobody
believe
has
that.
well, they don't know how to do it.
There
And a
you
lot of
go.
people yeah, and so when I say opportunity, I wanna unpack that just a little bit. They have to make the opportunity. So maybe that wasn't the right way I wanted to say it, but they don't know how. They are, our favorite term is crabs in a barrel, because
Hmm.
just like you said, who you surround yourself with, they have limiting beliefs, they have traumas, they have everything. And so that's why we're here, right? We've done the crabs in a barrel. We've done the traumas, like hashtag let our traumas work for you.
I
So
love it.
yeah,
We are
so
actually getting that coined, and we will wear it proudly.
well, yeah, for that. So, it sounds like what you're saying is as you ascend to this higher purpose, right? You're seeing people fall off. You're kind of setting the boundaries. You're seeing the red flag.
100%.
You're like, hey, this person's not good for
100%.
me. You're becoming comfortable with who you are and having those uncomfortable conversations. You're,
Yes.
yeah, you
So
know,
let me just finish that thought, because I mean, honestly, I wasn't even done making the point. And as always, you were so right there with me. But yeah, honestly, understanding, and this is what I realized this morning, right? Like take a look at your crowd, right?
Mhm.
And understand who is in alignment with where you're going and who isn't there yet,
Yeah.
and cut it off. Definitely the crowd, definitely, the people closest to you. And automatically, I can just see, the people that I had around me in 2023 And there's nothing wrong with this. I'm not saying this at all in a condescending or judgmental way. We're just different, right? But in 2023, I just saw how I kept people around me that thought very small, right?
Yeah.
Only in comparison to, how broad my perspective was for the journey in life, the goals, the things that I want to achieve, and the unlimited places on earth that, I could go and achieve them, right? Like I was stuck with small town girls and, small town boys, just very local.
Yeah, and that works for some folks. It
It
does.
does.
But at the same time, there's nothing wrong, but when you are trying to get to a certain place and you're really laser focused, you need people there who in your day-to-day life, like you said, that are gonna hold you accountable, that are gonna straighten your crown, that are gonna do what's best for you. And I have to tell you, sometimes there's wolf in sheep's clothing. So really paying attention to the words and the actions that people do will tell you a lot, right?
1,000%. And they'll tell you a lot about who you are. Birds
Yeah.
of a feather flock together. You always hang out with who you are. Look at you're always the sum of the five people closest to you,
Yes.
you
The
know?
loudest person in the room is the most insecure.
Oh, does that explain why I've been so noisy in the past?
No, but I saw something, honestly, I think it was either on Instagram or TikTok. No, when I say the loudest person, I don't mean like personality-wise. I mean the people who are like, "Oh, look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm
Oh,
fantastic. I've done this, I've done this."
oh,
It's
those.
just like, "Hey, we get it." Like, you're very insecure. Like, you have to be very careful of those people because you're breeding ego with insecurity, and they will do they will stop at no ends to
Mm,
to bring you down. So that is a very dangerous conversation or a combination to have in your life. So just being self-aware of that, right? And most people aren't, right? So, um, I think that what was it? I was just getting ready to say on it was either on Instagram or TikTok or something like that. I was on the other day and somebody said, being rich is loud, but true wealth is silent. And I'm like, yeah,
mm,
that hit me hard. It's a completely different mindset when you get there. So I'm a firm believer of growing out of needing to prove myself to now like, all right, I'll see you on the other side. I think that's a big
mm.
growth thing there.
Well, speaking of that, let's begin to uncover that, right? Because you had said it earlier, you
Mhm.
and I are different, right? Like we are very much in alignment with each other, and we both go about our growth, right? And our growth path in a
Mhm.
completely different way.
Yeah.
So, let's shift focus and let's talk about you, Shannon. Let's talk about what are your outcomes for this year? And, you know, where are you shifting out of, right? Between the rich to the wealthy mindset, right?
Yeah.
And what are some other, directions that you're growing out of and moving into?
So, I have to tell you that turning 40 really gave me a lot of I don't know, there's something about it that was like, I no longer have to do these very specific things, and I've done a lot of growth over the last couple of years. I have had some people do some really dirty things to me, and I was okay with just cutting them off and not getting closure. At the same time, in my professional career, I have grown. I have done what takes people 5, 8, 10 years. I've done it in 3 years. And I do, back to your higher purpose, I took a different path. I sat and looked at what pains me the most in the world, and I wanna be, what is it, Gandhi? I wanna be the change. I wanna be the change that I see in the world. Be the change that you want, right? And so for me, it's about stopping human trafficking. It is a multi-billion dollar industry. People can say, "Oh, it doesn't happen." And it, especially us living here in Texas, it's predominant. We get Amber Alerts constantly. And I know a lot of people don't get that, but it's important because I do have a daughter and I do have a son. And I think about what would, there's very few things that would truly rock my world that I don't think I could come back from. And something happening to them, I think would really be devastating to me. And I see how brazen these traffickers are getting, how we have more and more of it. And I feel like it's just becoming common. Like, oh, that's, like we've accepted it. It's the desensitization of just this and even the content that we see on TV and everything else. So that's my higher purpose. And then I also think about like, well, how do I get there? Right? And people don't like this, but money gets you there. Money gets you the freedom that you need in order to spend time in the trenches stopping people. Money gives you the time so you can produce resources to go in the trenches and stop these things. So, my daughter the other day, I said something about money and she said money doesn't buy happiness. I said whoever told you that is a poor person and they have a poor mindset because money actually, we may not like this. It does. It Listen, I'd rather be an unhappy rich person than a broke poor person. Be real honest. I wouldn't, if I have to sit in a $1 million mansion drinking martinis poolside versus, broke. I gotta tell you, I'd rather be unhappy in a $1 million mansion. So at the end of the day, it does. Money does rule the world, and that's why we're selling off our children and our women and all of those things. So that's my purpose. And then how I stay aligned, I'm a little, you're again, why you're then you're a little more spiritual, but me, I need to be very strategic in how I do it because I do have ADHD, and so I'll be like squirrel, 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 squirrel. So I spend a lot of time like chasing multiple things and I wouldn't finish them. And then, oh, like I'm very smart and all these other things. I could not figure out why I wasn't getting anything done. It was actually a friend of mine. And she's like, well, maybe you're chasing things that you think you should be doing. And if it was a priority to you, you would finish it. And then also, she told me you have too many things going on at once. So I really spend a lot of time. I do have a 5-year plan. I have a 3-year plan and I have a 1-year plan. And I spend probably November, December wrapping up what needs to be wrapped up for the year because that's my downtime because I go really hard through the year. But I spend November, December enjoying my family, but also literally from strategic to tactical, from planning my year, my quarters, my months, and my days. So do I need to learn a new skill set? So I do it for my personal life. I focus on 3 areas. I focus on my financial, and I keep them very outcome oriented. And there's a difference between outcomes and goals. Outcomes are, hey, this is what I want. So I think I gave the example before when we make goals. Oh, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. Honestly, that may not happen. Look at me. I got injured. I can no longer go to the gym. But outcomes is, hey, I want to get back into a size 6. That could be multiple ways. We may have to change the way we do it, but I'm still going to get my outcome. So
It
bringing it
will
up to
probably come from trading in the coffee for the mushroom coffee.
I will give you I will give you $5,000. I guarantee you the coffee, the mud water is not going to make the
Oh,
difference
bro,
between
let's
the size 6, right?
okay, I think
So,
we should do a science experiment and just see if the hypothesis was right.
I feel like I'm about to be $5,000 richer.
No,
What
I
do you
feel
hold
like
on, hold on.
I am about to go on a freaking shopping spree.
You're always giving me, crap for my shopping. However,
However,
what's the problem?
look, we need to stop being in alignment in some ways.
What's the problem?
I have the same oh girl, I've got the same things going on. But anyways, you were saying
Mhm.
if you needed to get into a size 6, there were multiple ways. Sorry, I did cut you off. I just want to get back on
No,
track.
that's fine. So I focus on outcomes. So, for example, if I want to, by the end of the year, make $1,000,000, that's different than, hey, I want to start XYZ business. So the outcome is make $1,000,000. How I get there may be completely different. It may be selling feet pics. It may be,
On your
peddling.
OnlyFans account.
Yeah, I do not have an OnlyFans account just for those people. But what I'm saying, hey, if you can make
Little
$1,000,000,
disclaimer.
if
Speaking
you
of
can se
disclaimers.
if you can make $1,000,000 selling booty hole pics and feet pics, like, more power to you, right?
Mm.
Yeah, but however you get there, it changes. Look at what the shutdown of the world did. It changed everything. So that's why I think it's important to know the difference between goals and outcomes. The outcomes are really important. How you get there, that's up to you and it may change. You just have to keep focused on $1,000,000, $1,000,000, $1,000,000. So you may have a business that produces $300,000 a year. That's cool. And it's a low hanging fruit, not a lot. That's great. And then you may have a business that produces a lot more. But at the end of the day, you're still making $1,000,000. So I focus on a professional like skill set, a financial, professional skill set, and then a health goal. So I really focus on three things going into the new year. That's outside of my businesses, but that's for me personally. And then I plan currently, of course, towards the end of the year, it gets a little further out, but that's what I really focus on and it helps me grow. Do I want to have a new skill set? What are the skill sets I need to take myself to the next level?
You know what? I am so glad to be in your presence and in your company right now because there are there is no end to the value that learning a skill set, right, will
Mhm.
take you. Leaders, entrepreneurs, eh, house moms, right? Anyone who wants to grow and evolve beyond the place that they're in right now must make it a priority to sharpen the tools in your box and add new tools in your box. Because if you don't, I mean, you're subject to,
Mhm.
right? Just remaining in the same situation, the same income bracket, the same relationships, just the same environment, right? Because you have not become a person that would attract other opportunities other than what you know, right? Like you don't know how to do that. You don't know how to be recognized, right,
Mhm.
by the people within that next level environment that you would dream of going to next, right? Like they
Well,
wouldn't see you as someone equipped and even approach you with the opportunities. And
well,
so many people
I think
don't value that type of growth and it boggles me,
well, but
But
that's a mindset. So even if somebody is just starting out, that's great. The biggest thing is like, I don't know this. And so one of the things that really empowered me was being okay with like, I don't know this. I don't have to be all things to all people. And that's okay. And then I was able to, again, a good friend of mine, Julie, I really focused on what she does. She said she spends like 6 months going deep and learning about something and then using it. And I was like, I love that. And so what I did is I would go deep, learn a new skill set, but then I would use it because when you learn it versus implementing it, it's completely different. But having the mindset and the permission to be like, well, I don't know that. And that's okay. Because again, you're removing the ego from there. And I think that's a very powerful thing. I also want to say though, when I hate self-proclaimed specialists or subject matter experts. We recently, and I'm going to bring it up. We recently had a conversation and I was kind of eavesdropping. Had a conversation with a group of friends and I was listening to something and it was probably one of the few times I didn't open my mouth about something. And I'm listening to them describe the circle of people that they're around and the math was not mathin'. I'm like, how do you go from this to being like a to this? But they had never done it. So when we're learning new skill sets, like check the criterias there that we have. Like when you want to grow a new skill set, you really need to do your research and pay attention of who and what you're learning that skill set from. Check the references. If somebody's giving it away for free, I got to tell you that I don't know. I just, when it doesn't pass the smell test and they don't have the credentials, like ask some deep questions and that's okay because this is your time that you're dealing with is what I was trying to say, right?
Oh,
Is that
100%. I mean, in this new world that I'm absolutely learning, right? Like I had a coach who would absolutely say, do not charge nothing,
never.
right, for your information. I mean, you have to have something um, in exchange for the value that you provide. And if you charge too less for it, someone may not be able to see the value in it. If you charge too much, right, someone may, I don't know what he said about that, but charging nothing for it probably gives people the
They're not vested in it.
idea. Exactly. It gives people the idea that it's not as valuable.
Well, they're not
It's
vested in it.
free.
So
They're
I
free
I
for
love
people.
yeah, I love my analogies. It's kind of like I remember as a kid, right? You kind of did some shithead stuff to your parents, like, oh, you didn't pay for it. Right? Like, "Oh, half a pizza, I'm just gonna throw this away." Like, I always think of Dave Chappelle when he did, who was it? Like, the mud on there. Just when you're a kid, you trash your room, like, there's pizza, it
Oh my god,
smells, you
I
don't do the
love Dave
laundry.
Chappelle.
And then, now that I have my own home, no. So, I've invested in my own home, but I wasn't invested in my parents' home because I didn't pay for it. It's the same thing. I remember when my son was younger, he kept leaving all of his toys on. He was young, and leaving all of his toys on, and batteries, they're expensive. This is back then, back in the day, not even today. And so I said, "Hey, bud, from now on, you're gonna have to buy your own batteries." So he finally got a little bit of money. He's like, "Oh, let's go buy batteries." Oh, he went and saw how expensive they were. I have to tell you, he's now vested and his toys were never left on again. They weren't left on. So people have to be vested in it. If and we do coaching. So when you're coaching somebody, you can't do it for them. You can't coach people who are uncoachable. They're not vested in it.
Mm,
That's fine.
mm,
That's perfectly
mm,
okay. Bye. Bye, Felicia.
mm. And say that loud and proud again.
Yeah.
And
So
I
I
think, oh, go ahead.
no, I have multiple ways that I really keep myself on track to a tactical level. I do set my boundaries. I'm very disciplined about the certain things. I do not let extra things creep in. If something new comes in, I weigh. If it's a business opportunity, I weigh it and say, hey, what's the lift on this? I need the details. but I don't try to cram it in. I say, what's the highest priority? Something has to go if I bring something new in. I'm very cognizant of that.
Mm. Well, I think to what you were saying about being vested, that
Mm.
really connects with the crowd that I have that I was surrounding myself with, right, in the past, and just understanding how vested they really were, you know, in dreams that we had together, in plans that we had together, and goals that we had together. What were they doing to contribute? What were they doing to become the person that it takes to be able to contribute to the dream?
So
Or
what do
do
you
I just have a little red wagon and do I just pull a whole bunch of people along with me?
so were
Right?
you pulling a whole bunch of people with you?
100%. Absolutely.
So what did
And,
you do
you
to
know,
get rid of them?
the weight of that, let me just tell you, the weight of that really slowed me down. So there really has to come a time when you let the handle go. You let the handle go. And finally, that weight allows you, with the absence of that weight, I feel so much lighter. The speed is so much faster in which I can travel.
I
So, that just looks like having some really honest conversations and just saying, I love you. We're not going in the same direction. We're not equally contributing to the success of this idea.
This is why you're the Zen. I'm picturing like in what is it, Spartan? When he's like, "We are Sparta," and he kicks those bastards into the pit. Like, I'm like, "Nope, I'm not doing this. We're done." Like, we are
Right.
DONE. I've asked you several times to do things and you haven't. See, you're very peaceful about it, and I'm very directly to the point. You're like, "Oh, we're gonna have this conversation out of love." And I'm like, "No, I'm a very different person in my business life versus my personal life. My business life, there is very little room for bullshit. I can't even find the right Cynthia word for it. I'm sure you have something, but I'm like, there is very little room for bullshit. Whereas my personal life, I will show a lot more grace, probably more grace than I possibly should. But when I say I am focused, I am laser focused and I do not have room for error or time or anything else. So I will have a conversation. I will say, hey, just like you said, we are not ready for this. You're not pulling your weight, whatever that looks like. Because I'm going to quote Pitch Perfect, my time is like a toddler in a tiara. It is precious and few. And if you, one of the most disrespectful things you can do to me is waste my time.
Mm. Well, now we know what you sort for and what you value.
I
And
do.
I'm not going to say that, I don't know how to, bring the fire, but I have just found in my personal opinion, and just in my personal experiences, because I have brought the fire, girl. I mean, I have,
I know.
tried to torch the whole freaking place down, turn every table, and, use as much aggression as I
Oh, I'm well aware of it.
felt
But
like using.
your
But
first approach is to go in with
that,
like an open heart and an open
mm,
mind. And I'm like, that's not my first approach. That's why we're very different. But I'm also ready to have that conversation. Typically, when I give people warnings, I will say, "Hey, was not done." I have the gentle conversation first, like, "Hey, need this to be done, this," and I kind of set the expectations. But then when it doesn't get done, then that's where if I have to say it twice, then it's out of
that's
that.
when you
So
bring the fire.
yes,
I think we can definitely, I think someone who has the zen and someone who has the fire is a very balanced individual.
Hmm. I agree. So, what was I telling you the other day when we were talking? It's being able to accept that you don't have all the skill sets and you're not all things to all people is powerful, right? It is very powerful. But then being able to say, like, you're really good at this can and leveraging that. So surrounding yourself with people who make up for your weaknesses is and but have the same drive and discipline as you do, life changing. It is life changing.
Which goes back to the crowd you keep.
Yeah.
I mean, if there is any, I mean, honestly, like if there is any physical thing in life that you, tangible thing in life that you can touch, right? It would be, and have absolute control over, would be choosing your crowd, choosing the group of people you surround yourself with. And honestly, I feel at this moment they're like the bumpers that you put in the gutters that make sure that your ball goes from the foul line to the pins. Like you can't help but get, hit your target in
I was
any way
gonna
or
say my
capacity.
closet. I was gonna say my
Huh?
closet and wardrobe. One
What?
tangible thing I can control, it's my
Oh.
closet, my wardrobe.
Oh
It's true. Every time we
my
go
God,
someplace,
I
she's
love
like,
it.
"Oh, I look horrible and you're all dressed up." I'm like, "Hey, I have a firm belief that if I die, I could potentially be wearing this outfit for life. And if you think that I
Oh
and
my God.
and I'm gonna come back from the afterlife and be like, "Hey, God, haven't let go of my petty yet. I gotta haunt a few folks." I am. I'm gonna be like poltergeist style
That's
though. I'm not gonna be
hilarious.
like a gentle haunting, be like, "Oh, I came back to tell you I love you." I'm gonna be like, "No, like poltergeist
You
stuff."
motherfucker.
I I try to be healed. That's one of the things, right? You work on like, how am I gonna heal? Because
Right.
you're never 100% healed. How am I gonna heal? But like I said, and I do embrace God, but I'm from the south side of the kingdom. I'll swing on you hard. I'm not that healed yet. The Holy Spirit, he's with me, but he's.
He understands.
He does. Mhm. He's like, "Listen, I'm not saying this is okay, but I'm gonna go over here and talk with this folk for a minute,
Right.
like, whatever you gotta handle. Like, I don't
Meet
I
me
don't need
back at the
God
rally
asking me
point.
what happened, like, I plead the fifth with plausible deniability."
Right.
Where Jesus is like,
Thank God he knows your heart.
"And Jesus knows my heart, my heart." It is. No, but
Well,
it is. It's so yeah, but part of fulfilling your goals is again, having a purpose and being really crystal clear. And so one of the things we talked about today is Cynthia and I have taken very different paths. She's very focused on the spiritual end of it. She is really doing accountability. I am laser focused of, hey, I do have a higher purpose. This takes this and this is how I'm going to get there. And I love being able to see, okay, what am I going to do today? And so I do list out every single thing of how it's going to get me there, but it doesn't mean that I don't adjust it. I
right.
wrote everything down. I have calendars, I have planners, I have like things right there of like 1, 2, 3. So it is visually for me, I'm a visual person, out of sight, out of mind totally resonates for me.
And
I
I
need
would
it
say
there.
for myself is absolutely the same,
Mhm.
right? Like I focus on becoming because I have found that just focusing on things that I want to attain or achieve in life um, really has never meant shit to me unless I become the person that would either do the things that can achieve it or become the person that would be in alignment, right? Like,
No.
because there's so often that people just don't realize on deeper levels that they want a thing so bad, but they don't believe that they deserve it. So when you talk about more of a spiritual approach, it's more about becoming. I am
Yeah.
passionate about becoming.
Yeah, I've been there. I know I deserve these things. I know that God, the universe, whoever has not put me through a lot of the hardships that would cripple most people, literally cripple most people. And I came out like a phoenix through the fire. So I know there is no way on God's green earth that He has put me through those things to be a mediocre person. I know I was meant for greatness. And that may seem very egotistical to people, and that's fine.
I think that's you embracing the conviction that you know within, right? You're embracing your power. And
Mhm.
if someone has an issue with that, it's only because they have not yet embraced theirs.
Well, that's their issue. It's not my issue. And I don't have to prove anything to you. At the end of the day, when I am sitting on my deathbed and I close my eyes and I, God willing, ascend, then those people are of no difference to me whatsoever. They really aren't. And that's perfectly okay. And that could be my neighbor, that could be, your faux friends, which are typically your frenemies. You really have to pay attention. But the more focused and the more you elevate, the less people you're going to have in your life. And more people are going to be like, oh, we miss the old Cynthia. We miss the party Cynthia. Oh, you've changed. You're not as much fun anymore. That's right. Because I'm healing and making deals. I'm healing and dealing.
Healing and dealing. Oh, that's
Mhm.
another
Hold
one.
on.
We're
Is
definitely.
Lizzo? No, Lizzo says, I'm trying to catch a mill and I ain't trying to catch feelings.
Or I catch flights, not feelings.
I don't wanna do that. Like, honestly, if the flight is over 4 hours, I'm just
Whatever. How are we going to go topless in Bali if you can't do a freaking flight past 4 hours? Come on.
I don't even flight coach. What do you think? I've gotten to
Well,
the
we're
point,
gonna have.
I will
That's the
tell
only
you,
way to fly overseas is, at least business class. So,
I won't even do
you
it to
know,
Florida on a 2-hour flight. Actually, no, I will do a 2-hour flight. I know this sounds really people are like, "Oh my gosh, you're so out of touch." No, I grew up a poor fat kid from Florida. I've earned every single penny that I have, every single skill set. I was the first person in my family to go to college, and guess what? You don't even need college to be a millionaire, right? This is a very different
so
generation.
many billionaires have not.
I know. I'm a huge fan of, Patrick, Bet David, and I love his story. I really do. He was an immigrant from Iran. He was told by people that he was never going to amount to any teachers, family, every friends of family, never going to amount to anything. And I have to tell you, he and I are just alike, right? Like I love it. I love it when somebody tells me I can't do something. That is literally like I graduated from hold my beer to hold my cocktail. But like, hold this and let me prove you wrong. Let the haters fuel you. I love that. And look at him now. Look at him now. He is writing books. He is a multimillionaire. He is producing content. He is the ultimate, like, just, I love that. His mom was on welfare. Like, America is the land of opportunity right there. No education, but you know what he does do? He reads constantly. He consumes content. He takes the time to learn a new skill set. I just he's one of my, people I would love to sit down and have a day with, a dinner with, whatever.
Fantastic.
Mhm.
Well, I think we have definitely learned from the both of us today, right? Like We've learned about the difference between a goal and an outcome. We've understood the difference between purpose, right? Or we've understood the importance of purpose. There we
Yes.
go.
Mm-hmm.
And we both have strategically, I guess, shared two different ways, right, to get in alignment with those outcomes and with that purpose.
Yep.
And I thoroughly enjoy learning from you. You know, it's a very tactical, it's a very high level overview, right?
Mhm.
And I absolutely just appreciate being your partner in business as well as in sisterhood.
I know.
So thank you for all of the value that you give, and just for showing up and being who you are and allowing us to learn from your example.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you for being a bad bitch and putting up with my bullshit. That's my way of.
Hey. That's my way of complimenting
No,
you, actually.
you for being this higher person and being wonderful, and I'm like, hey, thanks for like just being a badass. Thank you. Thank you.
Right?
It's
Right?
all encompassing.
I love it. I
That's all
love
we
it.
have today for today's episode of Zen and Fire. And stay tuned for more awesome enlightenment coming forward.
Move it, move it. Groove it, groove it. The one and